Closer maybe.
So good to see you again.
Yes, unfortunately, I went through some health issues
Yeah,
and improving, but
good.
still going through some tests.
Well,
So I'm here in Vrindavan.
oh, okay.
Yes,
Ah,
this is the lecture hall here, and
good.
we're in Lord Krishna's pastime place.
Yes. So, yesterday was Nityananda Trayodashi. So, we're happy to have the remnants of Sri Nityananda's mercy coming through you today from the Holy Dam. Well, the word is we thank you all for being here today, as always. Today is Chaturdashi of Sri Nityananda
Oh, okay.
appearance. That is, yesterday was Nityananda Trayodashi, and we had His Grace Ishwara Prabhu share the transcendental Leela of Sri Nityananda with us today. And today we have one of our dearest uncles, His Grace KRIPANIDHI Prabhu, who will be sharing the wisdom of the Srimad Bhagavatam with us today. And since this is our first time meeting in the year 2025, Prabhu, it is our humblest but warmest Happy New Year greetings to you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
And I wish you month. I wish you Happy New Year on Gurpurnim.
Jai, 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 Jai. Hare Krishna. Well, Prabhuji, thank you for being here. As always, we may put the verse on the screen and then you take it over from here.
Sure.
If I'm not mistaken, I think you are speaking on 364 or 3. I think 363.
363.
363, yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, 363, yes.
Creation of the universal form.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. They already did Prabhupada, so
Okay.
I'll just chant the invocation.
Okay.
Get going. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasa Tato Jayam Udirayat Nasta Preshu Abdeshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki. Reading from Canto 3, Chapter 6, text number 3, entitled Creation of the Universal Form. The chapter entitlement. Sonu pravishto bhagavams chesta rupena tam ganam binam sayo jayamasa Suktam karma prabodhayan. Sonu pravishto bhagavams chesta rupena tam ganam binam samyo jayamasa Suktam karma prabodhayan. One more time. Sonu pravishto bhagavams Chesta Rupena Tam Ganam Binam Samyojayamasa Suktam Karma Prabodhayan Sahadat Anupravishta, thus entering later on. Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Cheshta Rupena, by his representation of attempt. Kali. Tam, them. Ganam, all the living entities, including the demigods. Binam, separately. Samyo Jayam Asa, engaged to work. Suptam, sleeping. Karma, work. Prabodhayan, enlightening. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Thus, when the personality of Godhead entered into the elements by his energy, all the living entities were enlivened into different activities, just as one is engaged in his work after awakening from sleep. Srila Prabhupada writes, every individual soul remains unconscious after the dissolution of the creation, and thus enters into the Lord with his material energy. These individual souls, entities, are conditioned souls everlastingly, but in each and every material creation, they are given a chance to liberate themselves and become free souls. They're all given a chance to take advantage of Vedic wisdom and find out what is their relationship with the Supreme Lord, how can they be liberated, and what the ultimate profit is in such liberation. By properly studying the Vedas, one becomes conscious of his position and thus takes to the transcendental devotional service of the Lord and is gradually promoted to the spiritual sky. The individual souls in the material world engage in different activities according to their past unfinished desires. After the dissolution of a particular body, the individual soul forgets everything. But the all-merciful Lord, who is situated in everyone's heart as the witness, the supersoul, awakens him and reminds him of his past desires, and thus he begins to act accordingly in his next life. This unseen guidance is described as fate. And as a sensible man can understand that this continues his material bondage in the three modes of material nature. The unconscious sleeping stage of the living entity, just after the partial or total dissolution of the creation, is wrongly accepted as the final stage of life by some less intelligent philosophers. After the dissolution of the partial material body, a living entity remains unconscious for only a few months. And after the total dissolution of the material creation, he remains unconscious for many millions of years. When the creation is again revived, he is awakened by his work to his work by the Lord. The living entity is eternal, and the wakeful state of his consciousness, manifested by activities, is his natural condition of life. He cannot stop acting while awake, and thus he acts according to his diverse desires. When his desires are trained in the transcendental service of the Lord, his life becomes perfect, and he's promoted to the spiritual sky to enjoy eternal awakened life. Om Jnana Timirandasya Gyana Gyana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Gena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangur Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tanaham Bande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam. So here, Hare Krishna. I wanted to thank all the devotees of the African Yatra for attending and accepting and giving me their association. And I'm very grateful to you, Sahadev Prabhu, for organizing this wonderful program. So here we're reading that the Lord enters into the elements by his energy, and all living entities were enlivened into different activities, just as one is engaged in his work after awakening from them. So we know in Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, Krishna says, Maya tatamidam sarvam jagat avyakta murtina matstani sarvabhutani maite teshu chapyaham. He says that I am spread everywhere throughout the universe. All livings are me, but are in me, but I'm not in them. And then in the next verse, he says, Pasyame yogamaishvaram bhuta brinna cha bhuta stu mamatva bhuta bhava anaha. It means that just see my mystic opulence. So Krishna, although he appears as a little boy in the lap of Mother Yashoda here on this earth planet, that's out of his great compassion to revive Dharma, Sanatan Dharma, as he says, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir, that because religion is constantly being not destroyed, but contaminated and depleted and so on, convoluted. I need this. So he, out of his compassion, he comes again and again. So he's very merciful, and he's hankering for all these living entities to go back and be with him eternally and become free from the Janma Mrityu Jara Vyadi Dukkha Dosha Nudarshanam. When one comes to self-realization, he understands that the real evils of life are birth, death, old age, and disease. That is in the 13th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna describes the aspects of knowledge. So in describing about the material energy, we learn from Bhagavad Gita in the 8th chapter, Krishna tells Arjuna that Abhama Bhuvana Loka Punar Avartino Arjuna Mamupe Chatukonteya Punar Janmana Vidyate, that even the higher planets where Lord Brahma lives, down to the lowest, all are places of birth and death. But one who becomes his devotee, then Punar Janma, you don't take birth again in this material world. Sahasra Yuga Paryantam. So in the next verse, we learn that Lord Brahma, in Prabhupada describes that Lord Brahma's day is around, his day alone is about 4 million years, just one day. And then at the end of that day, there's a partial dissolution where all the living entities go into a state of unconsciousness. And then his next day comes, and again they enter into manifestation, and they have to pursue their material desires. Purusha prakriti stohi bhunkte prakriti sadgunam karnam guna sango sad sadasad joni janmashu. That the living entities are going through for trillions of earthly years. Lord Brahma, his lifetime is made up of 100 years, and each year is 12 months, and each month is 30 days, and each day is 4 million years, and each night is 4 million years. So we have no conception, Advaitam Achyutam Anadim Ananta. The conception of Krishna's creation is far beyond our achintya guna, inconceivable understanding. And And so we have to understand how tiny we are. And we are in the trillions, unlimited, koti koshi, yasya prabho, prabhupato, jagadanda koti, koti shuashesha vishudari vibhuti vinam, tad brahma nishkalam ananta bhutam, govindam adi purusham tamaham bhajami. That Lord Brahma states that there are trillions and trillions of little universes emanating from the blood pores, from the air, from the pores, the skin pores of Lord Krishna's plenary portion, Karanadaksha Vishnu. We have to understand the greatness of the Lord. Therefore, we start from the first canto. Now we're on the third canto. And here the title of this chapter is Creation of the Universal Form. And yet we know that this universal form is Ekapad Vibhuti. It's just one tiny little quarter of Krishna's entire manifestation, the spiritual world. And then in one tiny corner, we have the material world. And in the material world of so many planets, so many universes coming out of Karanadaksha Vishnu, we happen to be in a very small universe where Lord Brahma is. And so, Purusha Prakriti Stohi Bhunkte, we're going through life influenced by the modes of material nature, Sattvagun, Rajagun, Tamagun, trying to find some kind of happiness in this world. Brahmanda Brahmite Kona Bhagavan Jeev, Guru Krishna Prasade Poi Bhakti Lata Bij. So if we're very fortunate, we can receive this Vedic wisdom, this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the ripened fruit of all the Vedic wisdom. And we can actually not just become liberated, but far more. We can actually reawaken our dormant love for Krishna, that the soul has a natural birthright, a natural tendency to love. And love of God is the ultimate goal of human life, Prema Pumartha Mahan. So here Prabhupada says that by properly studying the Vedas, one can become conscious of his position. But actually Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was telling Ramananda Roy that many people study the Vedas and sometimes they get distracted by the different aspects of the Vedas. In fact, we know that Veda Vyasadeva was feeling a little depressed because, despondent because he wasn't getting to the essence of all Vedic literature, which is how to serve Krishna without any tinge of material desire or any mental speculation. Bhaktastu ananyaya shakyam ahamivam vidorjuna gyatum trastum chatadvena vishtristavan praveshtum ta parantapa. So Krishna tells Arjuna, after showing him this universal form, that's in the 11th chapter, Krishna showed this great universal form when there are so many different types of beings. They are the Gandharvas, they are the Siddhis, they are the Apsaras, they are the Kanaras. And in the lower planets, he shows serpentine beings who live in the lower, called the subterranean heavenly planets. There's so many areas of this universe. We live in Bhumandala, which is the area where the sun's rays extend. Beyond that is Jubaloka, and beyond Jubaloka, there are so many higher planets with higher living beings and so on. So Krishna tells Arjuna that the living entity is going throughout millions of lifetimes like this, trying to fulfill material desires. But he says, Bhaktistu ananyaya shakya. One must engage in my devotional service without any tinge of material desires or anything within the material world. So that's very, very rare. Rupa Goswami writes also in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that pure devotional service, or Raghava Bhakti, is extremely rare. We may follow the rules and regulations of devotional service, and that is very good, very, very rare also to actually take shelter of the parampara system coming down from Lord Brahma. We are so fortunate, incredibly and inconceivably fortunate, that now we have an opportunity to finish up these cycles of birth and death in this material world. And go back to engage in pure love of God with Krishna, to serve Krishna in so many ways. And Krishna is actually coming here 5,000 years ago to this place, Vrindavan, and he's exhibiting all these wonderful pastimes he's having. Although he's telling us, Anantara cha paramanu chirantarasta. The Lord Brahma is saying that the Lord Govinda, by his energy, is situated within the atom and also between the atom. Therefore, we see that the scientists, they're scratching their heads how the entire universe is working in such a very fine-tuned way. They call it the mystery of the universe, where the sun, all the planets are moving around a very, very fine-tuned way. Everything is in such great order. And then they also discover the inner universe, the highly advanced technology of the cell and the DNA in the cell, which is like a coding system. Who wrote the code? Krishna wrote the code. So Prabhupada said these scientists are simply cheaters, and they're bewildering the public. Yesham tu antagatam, yeshant ku patadestrinam patatam tamasihi adaya. Ye shradadana vachastevai. People are putting their faith every day in these institutes, universities of learning, professors, scientists, politicians, and false philosophers. So, patatam tamasihi adaya, they're simply leading people into darkness, tamasihi adaya. Ye shudadana vachaste, by giving all these philosophies, Marxism, capitalism, this ism, that ism, Darwinism, string theoryism, atheism, ye shudadana, when they put their faith in such blind leaders, Yijanti ashma plava. It means that it is as if they're following a captain into a boat, but the boat is made of stone. Ashma plava means it's made of stone, and it simply sinks. So these leaders, andaya tandaya upaniyamanas tipisha tatriyam ududaya ganaha, nate viduso artagatim. They don't know their real self-interest, is how to accept the instructions of the bona fide acharyas, the great sage-like acharyas. We're trying to help them come out of this place of darkness, and that these so-called leaders are simply, in Kali Yuga, they're simply drowning people in a boat made of stone. That is stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is real knowledge. Prabhupada said, our proof is the Guru Parampara. Vedaham samatitani vartamani charjana bhavishyami chabhutani mam tu vedana kaschana. Krishna tells Arjuna, I know everything that's happened in the past, in the present, and in the future. I know everyone, but me, no one knows. Even Arjuna doesn't know Krishna. Krishna is unlimitedly expanding his glorious features and so on. So he tells Arjuna, no one knows me. Name prakasha sarvasya yogamaya samavritaha mudhoyam nabijanati mamebhya param avyayam. He says, mudha. People are atheistic, they're mudha. They're ignorant donkeys or asses. And they're simply following others into the ditch, blind leading the blind into the ditch. So we're very fortunate that we're receiving this, not only from the spiritual master, but Krishna, we have to understand when someone is actually sincerely searching for the absolute truth, then Krishna from within the heart guides them to a bona fide disciplic succession, the Gaudiya, Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya. And so throughout the world, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's compassion and mercy is being felt, that God himself came here in the guise of a devotee. Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishna, Sangopangastra Parshadam, Yagyai Sankirtane Prayir, Yajanti Shumedasha. That throughout the entire world, the Lord's message is now being spread. It began with Srila Prabhupada taking the order of his spiritual master as his life and soul and crossing the ocean at the ripe old age of 70 and sitting on the sidewalks in New York and teaching people how to chant Hare Krishna. And now Yagyai Sankirtane Prayir. Now the Sankirtan movement is gradually flowing. The ocean of mercy is flowing and drowning living beings all over the world, on all the continents of the world, like South America, China, Africa, Europe, all over the world. This is the light. The light of the Srimad Bhagavatam is being spread in this way, where we can understand how to attain not just moksha, but to attain Lord Chaitanya's mercy and the six Goswamis' mercy. Nana Shastra Vichara Naika Nipano Sadharma Samstapako Lokanam Hari No Tribhuvane Manyo Sharanyakaro. That the six Goswamis are writing all these wonderful literatures and teaching us how to become devotees, how to develop and ripen our faith in the Krishna conscious, in the lotus feet of the acharyas, in the lotus feet of Radharani and Krishna, how to receive the mercy of Lord Nityananda, who is very merciful. Nitai Pada Kamalayor Koti Chandra Shushital. The Lord Nityananda, he is the original guru. He's Guru Tattva. He's also Dham Tattva. So Guru Tattva, he's the guru and the guru of all the gurus. And therefore, in order to attain the mercy, Hino Vino Nitai by Radha Krishna Paitinai, we have to get the mercy of Lord Nityananda in order to understand and enter into the loving pastimes, the loving conjugal affairs of the Supreme Lord Krishna and his Ladini Shakti, his Radharani. So for us to understand and enter into this transcendental realm of love of God, devotional service without any tinge of material desires, we have to receive the mercy of Lord Nityananda. And of course, we know that Lord Nityananda is very, very merciful. He approached Jagai Madai, and Madai hit him with a broken pot and broke his head. And Lord Gauranga came with his Sudarshan chakra to kill Jagai Madai, but Lord Nityananda said, no, you have to give your mercy. In Kali Yuga, you have to give your mercy. Everyone is Jagai Madai. Everyone is consumed by Nunam Pramata Kudute Vikarma. Vikarma means sinful activities. People are mad after sinful activities. They're overwhelmed by their senses, by their lust, by their greed, by their anger, by hate, by matsarya, envy. Overwhelmed by Krishna's external energy, the wife of Lord Shiva, is very powerful, Parvati. And she has a horrible job. She simply has to keep the poor souls under her, tripod, Rajagun, Tamagun, Sattvagun, and in this way suffering like anything. So Parvati, that's her job, and it's the energy of the Lord. So the only hope, as Krishna says, Machita Sarva Durgani, Mat Prasada Tarishyasi, Atacha Tvam Ahankaram, Nashoshasi Vinangshasi. So Arjuna, if you become conscious of me, I will deliver you from all your durganis, from all your miseries. Mat prasadad, by my mercy, I'll remove all obstacles in your life. Ata chaitam, but if you act through the false ego, thinking yourself the doer, and thinking that you're the body, you're this, you're that, dambo darpo bimanascha kroda purushya mevacha, agyana chabijatasya, partas sampadim asurim. The demoniac people or the demoniac mind is always thinking, oh, I am this, I am that, I'm great. Siddhoham Balavan, I'm powerful. Sukhi, I'm so happy. Ishvaraham, I'm the controller. Asatyam Apratishtam, there's no God. Life is temporary. There's no foundation to this world. Jagata Hurdanishvaram, the universe just happened by a big explosion called the Big Bang. There was an explosion, and then all this order and clockwork universe came into being just like a clock. So this is foolishness, and we are very fortunate to have received the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead's representative, Srila Prabhupada. And as Prabhupada says here, there's unseen guidance within every living entity is described as fate. And a sensible man can understand that this continues his material bondage in the three modes of nature. So Krishna says, Mataksmitir Jnanam Apohanam Cha, that I'm also giving you ignorance. Prabhupada writes in the 10th canto in 1977 that he writes that the Lord is in the heart, and if you want atheism or forgetfulness of God, matasmitir jnanam apohanam. Apohanam, you want to forget God? It's called atheism. It's a kind of belief system. And he says, yes, Krishna will supply you. And then in the purport he writes, you can have, evolution theory by Darwin, you can have Marxism theory. And he says, these are the great enemies of the world. Marxism and Darwinism, he said, are the great enemies of our modern world. So Krishna supplies whatever you want. And then Prabhupada says in the 16th chapter, Etam dristam avastabhya nastalpano pabudaya prabhavanti ugra karmana. You engage in so many material endeavors, industrialization, trying to manipulate material energy for your so-called material happiness. You have rocket science, you have nuclear weapons. And in the purport, Prabhupada said, Krishna said this to Arjuna 5,000 years ago, Shaya Jagato Hitaha, that the demons engage in unbeneficial, horrible works meant to destroy their own civilization. And Srila Prabhupada said that this verse, which was spoken by the Supreme Lord on the battlefield of Kurukshetra 5,000 years ago, 50 centuries ago, is so pertinent in today's modern society, where a demoniac class of men are very proud of their accomplishments, of their inventions, not knowing that these very things that they're proud of could create such destruction and destroy their whole so-called civilization. So we are very fortunate, and we have to endeavor to make all the inhabitants of this Bhumandala, this Bard Bhumi, this earth planet, we have to make them fortunate also by giving them Srila Prabhupada's purports. And Veda Vyas and Sukadev Goswami are speaking this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. And where we come to where Krishna describes they describe Krishna's very personal and emotional exchanges with his servants, with his friends, his cowherd boyfriends, with his mother Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj, and all his wonderful pastimes. These are all transcendental pastimes. The gopis and Krishna are having transcendental pastimes. Krishna's having pastimes with his many cows, and he knows the names of all his cows, and he's herding cows. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Hitaya Cha. Govindaya, one who gives shelter, takes care of cows, Govinda. So that is the Supreme Lord. And the secret of success is given by Rupa Goswami in the Upadeshamrita. He's giving us so many advice, so much advice, Upadeshamrita, how to become a good devotee. Atyahara prayashascha, prajalpaniyamagraha, chanasangas chalolyam cha, sadvir bhakti pranashyati. That we have to avoid certain things on the path of devotional service. Now that we have become fortunate and we have the mercy of such a great Mahabhagavat and his predecessors, the six Goswamis, Rupa and Sanatan, and Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, the ray of Vishnu sent by Lord Chaitanya to revive and destroy the Apasampradayas in India, so many false cheaters and gurus. So he says we have to be careful and avoid overeating, over-collecting, becoming absorbed in mundane topics, discussing politics or rumors and so on. Gramya Katha, village talk, so many things we have to do, we have to be careful with. Disassociating or associating ourselves with materialistic people, people who are completely attached. Prana artha, their whole life air, more important than their life air is accumulation of material possessions and enjoying the material world. So we want to avoid their association. It's very contaminating and can bring us down. And lolium means greedy for more than we require. Also to associate with devotees in a positive way, to inquire from devotees submissively, to respect the more advanced devotees, to give counsel to less advanced devotees, to share prasadam with devotees. These things are given by Rupa Goswami. Yadati pratigrinati goyam akriti pritchati bhunte bhunjayate chaiva saptaiva priti lakshanam. Priti lakshanam, to exchange with devotees always in a very friendly way, and so on. So the Goswamis are giving us keep keeping positive association and being protected by associating with devotees in a positive way. So that is Srila Prabhupada's mercy upon us and the six Goswamis to engage in devotional service in a very favorable way, and understanding that Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is guiding us from within our hearts And the Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also asking us to become Krishna conscious and then distribute Krishna consciousness to others. Yari deke tarikaha Krishna upadesh, amara jnana, jnana hara id udesh. It means that wherever you go, you become a spiritual master and deliver all the fallen souls. So we have to understand that the living entities are destined, as Kapila Dev describes to his mother, movements of living entities, gliding down to the hellish punishment in the lower planets and where Yamaloka is. And then, Mudho Jonisu Jayate,
They have to mute their mic.
that at the time of death, if one dies in the mode of ignorance, he takes birth amongst the animal species of life. So somehow or other, the someone is not muting their microphone, and I'm being cross interrupted by some voices and so on. So are you still there, Sahadev?
Yes, Prabhuji. I'm trying to take care of that.
Okay. Okay, so I'll stop here. And we can have a little discussion or questions as you like.
Well, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. And sorry for the distractions. Dear devotees, if anyone may have questions, comments, realizations you may want to ask or share, please, you may indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to ask your question. Hold on, Prabhuji, let me do this. Yeah. All right. So, Prabhuji, we will also like to wish you a very healthy, Krishna conscious, belated happy birthday also, because we haven't met since your last birthday celebration. So we're grateful to somehow be part to that wonderful celebration. Some of us were fortunate to have some of the videos, and it's very beautiful in the sense that oftentimes as people, and of course as devotees, we very seldomly appreciate devotees until after they are gone. But it was nice to see devotees expressing their appreciation to another devotee while still in flesh. So thank you so much, Prabhuji, for being our dear uncle and showering your blessings and mercy upon us. Even at times when your health is not so good, you still try to make it here. As much as we would love to have you here all the time, Prabhuji, we also will humbly suggest that if for health reasons you will not be able to be here, we will appreciate the Lord understands also. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Thank you
Krishna.
for birthday.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, see, I recall when I was back home in Africa, My spiritual master is Leonard Spectator Swami Maharaj trained us to have interfaith dialogues. And we used to organize interfaith programs whenever Gurudev would come with Christians, with Muslims, with the Buddhists, with the Baha'i faith, all sorts of faith. And in this way, we were trying our little best to expose people in general, all walks of life, to Krishna consciousness. But it seems that ISKCON as an organization is not very much particularly keen or interested in engaging in such interactions. Like in the US, there are so many opportunities that devotees could have interfaith dialogues, like having dialogues with great philosophers in society, that the world recognizes them, people from science backgrounds, that the world recognizes them. And I'm wondering what might be the reason why we do not seem to have interest in engaging in such interactions. And if there is no better reason, then why don't we try to do it? This is it's an observation and a question at the same time, Prabhuji, if you may throw some light. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So I mean, from my experience, devotees do integrate or interface with various religions, like in North America, U.S., Canada. There are devotees who engage in interfaith conferences and discussions, especially in America more than Canada. I noticed they have a Department of Interfaith, a department for pursuing interfaith, interfacing with Christians and so on. A lot of Christians in America. Although Prabhupada was very strong when he met the Cardinal Daniliu in France, he started preaching to him about thou shalt not kill animals and tried to explain to him, in a very uncompromised, he didn't compromise at all, that, the animals have a soul, and we should see them as part and parcel of the Lord. And so when we have these interfaith conferences and so on, and it's very good to do this, that we also try to help them to understand that when the Lord said, thou shalt not kill, or when in Islam there are different passages where we should reduce violence to creatures and animals. There's a book by a devotee, Stephen Rosen is his Karmi name, and the book's called Food for the Spirit. And in there he quotes from the Quran, from the Bible, from the Torah, and so on. Of course, Buddha taught nonviolence. And a lot of Buddhists and Hindus also are very fond, especially in West Bengal, very fond of non-veg, even cows nowadays. So interfaith is important also, not to try to make a deal with the devil. Like, we want to keep the discussions open, but we want them to know that you should apply your teachings. You should imbibe these teachings properly, and inculcate them, and act accordingly. Achar, means living the example by example. Yeah, so it's actually very, very rewarding. I've gone to some interfaith programs where they ask questions about from the Christians and then from me and then from, Buddhists. And the Bhagavad Gita is like a laser beam. When you start speaking from the Gita, it's a laser beam. That they really don't understand they're not the body. That's the first problem, is they don't really understand that we're not these bodies and that we're eternal and the body is a machine. And so we're able to at least stimulate these thoughts that you're not a body and you own a soul. You're a soul and you own the body. And there's nice verses in the Gita about that. My wife Karunamai is she was very active or interested in interfaith activities when we lived in Canada. And it's nice. You meet very nice people who are pious and who are trying to do some good in the world. They need to receive this transcendental knowledge. I met one pastor who came to the temple in Canada, and what had happened was he started studying Prabhupada's books, and he was a full-blown, Christian pastor who had gotten a master's degree in Christianity, and his eyes were opened so much by Prabhupada's books, and so he was studying it privately without his wife knowing. But when she found out, she just totally went outrageous. He was outraged, and she started burning crosses around their house to keep the devil away. So he got into a marriage problem with his wife. Poor guy. So ultimately, he had to make a choice: my family or Krishna. And he kind of faded away. But he was so impacted by Srila Prabhupada's purports in the Bhagavatam. So much enlightenment is there, and that's what we want to do with the in the interfaith. In that context, of interfaith, we want to be friends with them, and then very carefully, and you might say surreptitiously, inject some poison. So that's important. And I know a devotee in Philadelphia who would cater to the black Muslims. They're new Muslims in Michigan and all these places in America. Islam, Nation of Islam, and many of them became vegetarians because of this devotee. I can't remember his name. He's an old friend of mine. He joined just after Prabhupada. He's African American. And he was catering from Govinda's restaurant, which he started, and distributing prasadam to all the Nation of Islam people. And many of them they were very sincere and very serious. And they rejected Christianity for reasons quite obvious.
Is it Hariashra Prabhu?
Pardon?
Hariashra. I think that's the devotee, your god brother.
My memory's fading. But Haryashva, my good friend Haryashva,
Yeah.
great work, wonderful work, in the interfaith with the African Islam, Nation of Islam, African Americans. Really nice. I was very impressed.
Yeah.
He did so much work there.
Yeah.
So it's really good. I know that now in in America, in Atlanta, devotees are infiltrating into the African American community as well. And they just love our books. They love Prabhupada's Bhagavatam, and they're buying the whole Bhagavatam and, absorbing this enlightened, this knowledge. They're thirsty for the knowledge in these books, and they're very, very receptive.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know the devotee there, Mahotsa. He's South Indian, but he knows how to relate with the African Americans in Atlanta and these places, and he sells huge amounts of Bhagavatam sets
Yeah, Mahotsa,
to
yeah.
them.
Yeah.
It's a very, very dynamic devotee, amazing devotee.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. We hope we see more and more of such interfaith dialogues.
Yeah, it's definitely, in America, there's quite an effort to do interfaith preaching. I think it's a great opportunity personally. And it's very, very necessary in the world.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji. Anyone with something to ask or to share, reflections, questions? I have tons of questions, but I do not want to take over everything. So if you have something to ask, please indicate by using the hand emoji. Madhavan Prabhu, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna. You're still muted. Okay, good.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. All glory to Prabhupada. All glory unto the Lord feet.
Hare Krishna.
Are you hearing me?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Prabhu. So we so much appreciate your lecture today. In fact, I so much appreciate it so much because I got a lot of realization from the lecture you gave us today. About interfaith, yes, I also like. I believe as devotees, we should be competent enough, and through our natural interactions with people, we should preach. When we interact with people, friends, different gatherings, so through our natural interactions with them, we can also preach, provided we are following the principles and also that we understand the philosophy, the Vedic culture. I think this is another wonderful way we can impart knowledge. Although it appears very informal, but it's natural. Someone like me, I interact with all sorts of people. I'm not limited to temple life. I'm a businessman. Even the last weekend, I traveled for the whole weekend, I was with a friend who came from New Zealand. He's a professor. It was my mate. So for 3 days we were together, and almost 6 of us that we have met, and we interacted, and the interaction was very, very interesting because we have Christians, we have those who are, I would say, free thinkers. So it was very interesting. So I can see that as a devotee, it's very important we understand the philosophy, and that will make it easy by interacting with different levels. Then we can impart knowledge. I think that's just, I don't know if it really makes any sense, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So what I noticed with Srila Prabhupada was it wasn't just knowledge, but his his presence, his energy, his love of God was, his purity was so powerful that that itself is preaching. So sometimes we think we have to educate by, giving Shastra. But more importantly, with Srila Prabhupada, it was his example, his purity, his pure love of God was just natural preaching without, in other words, without saying anything. He could, you know, could attract many, many, many people were just attracted to this prema, this prema bhakti, which is very potent, very attractive. It's Radharani. They're feeling the presence of Radha, which, is Radharani, Aradhananam, the worship of Krishna, Radharani. So sometimes preaching is more effective just by our own personal bhakti and our personal example. As well, of course, they want some knowledge, but both things are required. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much, Prabhuji. This question I asked very much reminds me of my guru so much because, just like you rightly said, His Holiness Bhaktivinoda Swami Maharaj, he wasn't just out there just imparting the knowledge, but being in his presence alone and seeing his smile and feeling that sincerely this person is not here to convert me, he's here to add to what I already have. It actually led lots of different churches allow him to come to their church, to the pulpit, and preach to the congregation. And nobody felt threatened, Well, I feel guilty because he taught me this manner of preaching. And I know a little bit, but I'm not using it. So that is my guilt. That is my guilt. But if we may move a little bit away from that, I have this question from the purport Srila Prabhupada gave so beautifully. Well, before I do that, I think Anadini Prabhu has a question. We'll go to Anadini and then I will come back to my question. Anadini Prabhu, please, you may unmute.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
Please
Krishna.
accept my humble obeisance.
Jai.
So, Prabhu, my question is about having more than necessary. I knew Sanatana Goswami had a touchstone and threw it in a dustbin. Prabhu, if as a devotee today, I should have that touchstone and threw it into the dustbin, knowing very well that I may use that in the service of Krishna, wouldn't I look foolish in the eyes of other devotees? I don't know if my question is clear.
I think Prabhu heard you. Prabhu is laughing because I'm also laughing here.
The thing is, Rupa Goswami, when he writes on the 5th chapter in the Upadeshamrita, in the purport, Prabhupada says, if we pretend to be something we're not, it's more dangerous than just being honest about where we're at. So I've seen a lot of God brothers in big leadership positions, and they weren't qualified to accept all the wealth that was coming their way and all the power. And they projected themselves as more than what they actually were, and they ended up falling down. So yes, if Krishna gives, when you're qualified, Krishna will give you $1 million and you'll use it in a service. Otherwise, as neophytes, it's very dangerous. Prabhupada said, very dangerous. And of course, we know Yukta Vairagya. Rupa Goswami talks about Falgu Vairagya, foolish renunciation, and then Yukta Vairagya, seeing everything and using it as Krishna in Krishna's service. So, yes, if we had millions and millions of dollars, Prabhupada used to say, "What are you going to do with it? Are you going to?" It's very intoxicating, Bhoga and Aishwarya. So when we're more advanced in Raga Bhakti, Raghava Bhakti, then perhaps we'll be qualified like Sanatan Goswami and Rupa Goswami. They were given, in fact, Rupa Goswami had a boatload of gold. You can imagine how wealthy that is today. A boatload of gold coins. And he gave a quarter to his relatives. He kept a quarter for emergencies. And he gave half of that boatload of gold to the Brahmins and Vaishnavas. So if we're able to do that, then maybe Krishna will give us, a touchstone, and we'll use it in his service. But purity is more important. And the real treasure, the real jewel of life is to develop pure, unalloyed devotional service. And to do that, Lord Chaitanya said to Haridas Thakur and others, Trinata Pisanichana Turorivasa Hishnuna. Beat the mind until you know that you're the number 0. You're the lowest on the ladder. You're lowest on the social ladder amongst devotees. You're the lowest. And you want to take the dust from their feet. In this way, we'll always remain safe in Krishna consciousness, Trinata Pisanichana, and be very tolerant, because in life we'll be offended or insulted or assaulted, even by other devotees. But that's Krishna sending us a test. So, yeah, Sanatan Goswami was extremely elevated, very, very elevated, of course, pure prema bhakti, love of Krishna. And he is qualified to keep a touchstone in the garbage. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the answer. Very interesting. I hope Anadinana Prabhu, you are satisfied with the answer. Prabhuji, I had a question before Anadinana Prabhu raised his hand up. And my question is, in the purport, Sri Prabhupada was talking about how the 11 entities at the end of Lord Brahma's day enter into the body of Lord Vishnu. And when Lord Brahma wakes up, the 11 entities are again released from the body of Lord Vishnu. And they continue from where they were before they entered into the body of Lord Vishnu. And my question is, it's a bit perplexing for me to understand how it works. Of course, it's supposed to be so because I don't have the brain to understand it, but I'm trying to. And that is, at the beginning of Lord Brahma's waking up from his sleep, the age that begins with that is the Satya Yuga, if I'm not mistaken. And if it's Satya Yuga, where all the beings are almost 100% God conscious. And when they were entering, the 11 entities were entering into the body of Lord Vishnu, they were in the age of Kali Yuga, with this unforetold animalistic mentalities and behaviors. How then do such souls enter into the new material creation in the mode of God consciousness when they were devoid of God consciousness, when they were entering into the body of Lord Vishnu? And the script and the Srila Prabhupada's explanation states that the 11 entities begin from where they ended on. So if you may help, how that works.
Yeah, well, we know that even at the end of every Kali Yuga,
Mm.
the Lord appeared, like it's described in the 12th canto, that the Lord appears in a village in India as Kalki, the son of a Brahmin Vaishnav family who have been there throughout Kali Yuga waiting for the right time. So as Einstein said, time is relative. So Vedavyasa is still in the Himalayas and he's up there. Madhavacharya went to meet him a few hundred years ago. So anyway, that's one idea. Now, there is partial dissolution and total dissolution. So there's the primary and secondary. The primary dissolution is when Mahavishnu breathes in, and then all the universes go back in like little capsules. They go back inside. And that is one lifetime of Brahma, which is 311 trillion and 80 billion years, according to Prabhupada's calculation. But every day of Brahma is different. That is the secondary dissolution when the entire universe fills up with water from the Garbhodak ocean, and everything goes into a dormant stage for the night of Brahma. And then those living entities, as Krishna indicates in the 8th chapter, I believe 9th chapter, that they go into this state of unmanifestation. And then again, as Brahma's day comes, after about described 4 billion years, then back into manifestation, and then a new day of Brahma. But Brahma has 30 days, and then he has 12 months, and then he has 100 years. So the calculations are in the trillions. So every rotation, 1,000 yugas taken together, quite a yuga kalpa of these 4 ages, 1,000 of those rotating for 1,000 times is a day of Brahma. And then Prabhupada calculates what that is. It's about 4 billion years of manifestation, and then the secondary dissolution takes place. So by Krishna's arrangement, the living entities go into a dormant stage. But here Prabhupada says that when they come back out, and he develops his wakeful state of consciousness manifested by activities and natural condition of life. And then he says he cannot stop while being awake, and he acts according to diverse desires. So those desires the living entity didn't finish up with, it seems that they're again awakened. And then Prabhupada concludes by saying, when those desires are trained in the transcendental service of the Lord, his life becomes perfect, and he's promoted to the spiritual sky. So Krishna's in the heart of all living beings, and we know that he accompanies us through many, many species of life, trillions and trillions. He's always accompanying us, and so he can give us a dormant stage or an awakened stage, and he is fulfilling. Not a blade of grass moves without the sanction of the Lord. So once coming back to a day of Brahma, the living entity again is awakened. Prabhupada says here, the unconscious sleeping stage of the living entity just after the partial or total dissolution. So he's talking about both dissolutions of the creation. And then he says is wrongly accepted as the final stage of life by some less intelligent philosophers. After the dissolution of the partial material body, a living entity remains unconscious. Then he goes into talking about birth and death. After the total dissolution of the material creation, he remains unconscious for many millions of years. But when the creation is again revived, he's awakened to his work by the Lord. So it shows that the Lord can put us in a dormant stage, and he can also wake us up and say, okay, go ahead, fulfill your desires. That's what I'm getting from this. And Prabhupada also indicates there's the partial and the total dissolution of the creation. So there's two types of dissolution, right? The final one is when Lord Shiva does his dance of destruction, and then in one breath of Vishnu, that's 311 trillion 80 billion years. That's a lot of zeros,
Yes.
you know. But what it's trying to tell us is that you really have to appreciate what the acharyas are doing for you. Don't become, despondent or whimsical or whatever. Don't try to enjoy. Once you take shelter of the great acharya and this great movement, don't be foolish. Don't be complacent. Take it seriously. And Prabhupada said, finish it up in this lifetime. This is the mercy of God in Kali Yuga. That, okay, I'm giving you a very simple process. Hurry up and do it, Chant Hare Krishna, follow the basic 4 principles, chant your rounds, and be humble, tolerant, and slowly go back to Krishna, So ultimately, there's 5 factors of action, right? In the 18th chapter. But Prabhupada said in the purport there, adishtanam tatakartam karnam chapritagvidam vividam chapritak treshtam daivam. Daivam, he says, the Lord is the most important of the 5 elements of action. The place and time, the instruments of action, the endeavor, like that. And then the Supreme Lord. So here we understand that Krishna is the all-powerful, and he can put you into sleeping mode, or he can wake you up, and you continue on pursuing material enjoyment and being influenced by Maya. So that's the idea that I'm getting in this purport, is that the ultimate decision, although we have little independence, ultimately Krishna has to allow it, allow our desires to manifest. The deciding factor. Prabhupada says in the 18th chapter, that ultimately the Supreme Lord is the final decider, the final decision maker.
Well, thank you so much, Prabhuji, for the answer. I think I now have a better understanding to my question. I had asked this question before, and I didn't quite get it cleared as much as I do today. So thank you so much. Dr. Hassan, please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
The janitor here wants to lock up, so I'll
Hare
listen.
Krishna.
Oh, okay. Okay, so Prabhuji, this may be the last question. Yes.
I'll
So
take this one, and then he wants
yes.
to lock.
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, Dr. Hassan, please go ahead.
Yes, Hare Krishna, Your Grace.
Hare Krishna.
Please, can you accept my respectful brothers and sisters? All glory to Guru Dev, all Krishna Prabhupada,
Yeah.
and all glory to the wonderful Assembly devotees. Thank you for the wonderful class. Your Grace, the question I want to ask is about the Goswamis, especially Sanatana and Rupa Goswami, how they give up everything, their riches and everything to follow Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. and they were living under the trees. What I heard was that they were writing the books in under the trees, in the sun and in the rain. So if I come to think of that, how can somebody write with the ink inside the rain? How was that be possible? I was thinking about, is it because they have direct association with God, or they have some mystical powers, or how was that possible? I just want to know more about that. How would that has to be for somebody to write inside the rain with ink, and it was possible? This is my humble question. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, sir. So actually, that time they didn't have any printing houses or pulp mills to make paper. So they would take the thorn from a tree, a sharp thorn, needle-like thorn, and they would write on palm leaves. And if you go to the museum in New Delhi, they have the original writings of the Goswamis preserved in special glass containers. Atmospheric conditions are controlled. And you can see that they were writing on these leaves, on palm leaves. And they were writing all the books. Rupa Goswami wrote 100,000 Sanskrit verses, 16 different books, Ujjvala Nilamani, Gopal Saptam, and so many books, Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, all these books. But they were writing on with a thorn, and they would, scratch into the leaf the Sanskrit. Remember also that Rupa Goswami in the Nectar of Devotion states that one who is a Mahabhagavad, great devotee of Mahabhagavad, he already has attained all the 8 siddhis, all the 8 mystic powers. So they're not ordinary beings. Jagannath Das Babaji, when they brought him in a basket to the birthplace of Lord Chaitanya, he was lame. He was 130 years old, the guru of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He couldn't walk. He was lame. But as soon as they brought him to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's birthplace, they wanted him to confirm it. He jumped out of the basket and started dancing in ecstasy. So it's beyond the mind, our limited mind, our perception or conception of what great personalities such as Prabhupada or Rupa and Sanatan can do. They're empowered by the Lord. They were living on 2 drops of butter every day and 1.5 hours of sleep. They were in complete ecstasy. They were living in the spiritual world. They didn't see the material, halo here of, mud and stones. They were completely in Goloka Vrindavan. And they were completely in association of Radha and Krishna all the time. So it's a completely different dimension to what we are, our perception of reality is a different dimension that they're in. And they were accomplished great miraculous feats, great miraculous feats. So this is how they did it. They didn't have ink and paper in those days, so, that was later developed and invented, how to make paper and so on. I think the Egyptians developed it, and different scrolls and indentations and so on. But the 6 Goswamis, there's still those artifacts in the museum in Delhi. You can go and see them when you come to India. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Dear devotees, we're going to humbly request you all to kindly unmute, and we all we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, our revered uncle, His Grace KRIPANIDHI Prabhu, for being with us today and sharing his love and wisdom with us today. Please, you may all unmute. Jai. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
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 Hare Hare,
Hare
Rama, Hare
Rama, Rama,
Hare
Pancha
Panchakalpatarubhyascha
Danam
Vaishnavebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.
Grace Kripanidhi Prabhu ki
Jai.
His co-founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada ki
Jai.
Antakoti Vaishnava Binde ki Jai.
Jai.
Go Piminande.
Hare Hare.